Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ahmed Nawaz with the latest roundup of sports today. Let's take a look first of all at what we're discussing on the show in detail. We'll give you a roundup of cricket in the world. First of all, we do discuss the major happening in the world of cricket. We talk about the change of guard, of course, because it is the World Test Championship that we'll be talking about in detail. Australia being crowned champions of Test cricket in the world for the second edition. Of course, inaugural edition was won by New Zealand, but what was common in the inaugural and the second edition was that both times India have ended up as the runner-up. Once again, India was on the losing side. They just had no answer to the quality bowling of Australia and the way they batted as well. I think that needs to be appreciated. So congratulations to Australia, well-deserved champions of Test cricket in the world, and I think it's going to go a long way for them. This side, as the commentator said, that since the past year they've been playing Test cricket and winning all around the world. Remember their series in Pakistan as well. They were absolutely phenomenal. So you've got to appreciate these guys, these bunch of guys under the captaincy of Pat Cummins have been absolutely superb. The combination has been there. A bit disappointed the Indians, of course, would be, and fans of world cricket who saw that it was a resilient effort from the likes of Virat Kohli, Ajinkya Rahane, Shardul Thakur. Everybody was giving their best, but unfortunately India lacked that quality that was needed to win an ICC Test Championship, and that's why we talked about it before the championship as well, before this final, that on paper Australia is a far better side than India. So you got to appreciate that. Once again, congratulations to Australia. They are deserving champions of Test cricket in the world. Then, of course, the International Cricket Council has also released a schedule for the ICC ODI World Cup to be held in India. It's going to be an action-packed event. All eyes are once again on Pakistan versus India, the game likely to be played in Ahmedabad. And of course, why not? The biggest spectacle of the year of world cricket is always Pakistan versus India. But the mega event is going to take place in October. The first match would see champions England, who would be in action as well, but Pakistan and India on the 15th of October in Ahmedabad. New Zealand is going to face England in the opening match of this ODI World Cup. It's going to be an action-packed event, all teams participating, and the crown of being world champions for ODI cricket will be on offer. Then, of course, we move on to some more developments from the world of sports. Completed the treble. They managed to beat their opponents in a high-intensity final of the UEFA Champions League. Inter just had back in the league. They beat Arsenal to take the league as well. Remember, they were a bit down, but the way they made that gradual improvement, then not just that, took the FA Cup and then the Champions League as well. Pep Guardiola had everything planned. So I think champions of Europe deserve that standing ovation, and congratulations to all of you who were supporting the blue side of Manchester. That's what we're discussing in the show in detail, of course. Time now to introduce the guests. First of all, in studios, we've been joined by sports expert Ali Mehdi, who joins us. Assalamu alaikum, Ali. How are you?
Welcome, Sam. I'm very well, thank you.
Great to have you on the show. We've also been joined on Sports Extra by cricket commentator, expert. He's a broadcaster and presenter as well, Qiyasif Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum assalam, Ahmed. I'm very well, thank you.
And we've also been joined by fellow anchor and cricket expert Ali Gohar. Assalamu alaikum, Ali. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Great to hear from you. It's been a while.
Well, lovely to have you once again on the show, mate. And what better way than to discuss the World Test Championship? First of all, what did you make of the overall final?
Ahmed, look, let's be honest. It was pretty obvious what was going to happen before the first ball was bowled. Because India lacked the most important thing, preparation. They were in IPL mode. Most of the cricketers that you saw playing this Test Championship were playing the IPL. They didn't have much time to prepare. So the writing was on the wall from the very beginning. Secondly, their team's selection was surprising. Not picking Ashwin was a massive blunder. I was in shock, and I'm surprised at the team management. I just wonder what they were thinking, because I'm sitting in London right now. I mean, it's like Jaipur. It's so hot. And the pitch was, and that was the forecast going forward. So the pitch was obviously going to not maybe break up, but it became dry, as we saw. So their team selection was poor. Their bowling looked as the test match began, looked a little bit toothless, especially without Bumrah and then of course Ashwin. And then when you look at India's batting, I know you said Virat Kohli was resilient, and I know what you mean, Ahmed, but In the second innings, he looked like a man who had been working very hard. The stroke play was there, and you get that with a great player like Kohli. But you could just tell, if you watched cricket for a number of years, you could tell that yes, while it was glitzy and glamorous and it looked great, but it lacked longevity, which is what he needed. That's what he needed to bring, especially in the second innings when you're chasing 440. I just, you almost got the sense that it was going to end very soon. So India have a lot of thinking to do with regard to how they want to approach Test cricket going forward. I mean, this is a team that's won in England and won in Australia. So they have the resources, they have the tools. But this should be a big wake up call to them, because it's just frustrating, Ahmed, when a team has all the resources but just doesn't use it wisely because their priorities are all wrong.
And welcome back to Sportsextra. We're discussing the World Test Championship in detail. Ali Mehdi, you'd like to continue, please.
Yes, of course. First, I would like to say, first of all, that I thought it was mind-boggling that Ashwin wasn't selected. I completely agree with our former colleague Ali Gohar over here, and I believe that that it's been so hot, especially in that region, that you could see that this was like a pitch which was crumbled during the match. Secondly, I thought it was I think really strange that they decided to actually bowl first. Look, if you traditionally look, the oval is that sort of a wicket which offers very little to the bowlers, and then eventually it becomes a batting paradise. And if you are actually batting last, then it can become very tricky, and that's exactly what we saw, and that's exactly what we said. So I think the Indians actually, they have the tools, they have the resources, but they got two things categorically wrong. Firstly, they didn't play Ashwin, and secondly, bowling first on an oval wicket which was going to get drier throughout the week. I thought it was just a very rash and very diabolical decision.
K. Asif, we discussed a lot of factors throughout the week regarding this final, discussed the sides on paper as well, about how important the toss would be. One thing that we were all of the opinion that because we studied the history of this ground as well, that with each passing day, even once the sun shines at the oval, it becomes a run scoring ground, a fast outfield, the pitch becomes batting friendly, something India clearly missed out. But right now there is a completely one-sided opinion that not playing Ashwin was a serious blow to India's chances of winning this final.
Well, Ahmed, right before the start of the match, I've said that I'm giving 60% marks to Australia, and that's why I'm wearing this yellow, because we have won that, actually.
I thought that's for Peshawar Zalmi, not Australia.
All right. See, the India, they got, some mistakes if you talk about start from the match. And to be very honest, that wasn't a very strong side against Australia. Because if you see the bowling side, Shami and then Siraj. And on the other side, Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins. Huge difference. If you see their averages, the Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins somewhere around 25. And Siraj and Shami in Test cricket both above 30. And when we talk about spinners like Ashwin was sitting in the dugout. And I had asked this question to the Indian journalists as well during a Twitter space last night. And they didn't get any sort of clue. And they were shocked that because the Indian management, they were not sure about the playing 11. So I have asked and said that I mean, this is the funniest thing that you're going to play the biggest match and the final of the World Test Championship, and you're not sure actually about your playing 11. What does it mean that this is what Ali Gohar said, that the priorities, your priorities, Indian Premier League, your priorities, that we're not playing in Pakistan, the Asia Cup, your priorities are to destroy the game, and this time the entire Indian nation is crying, and they're just crying because of the team like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and the big names when they are not performing well. And if you see the short selection, Ahmad, that was poor. Either it be Rohit Sharma, either the Virat Kohli, even Pujara, only Ajinkya Rahane was a bit sensible. But even in the second innings, Rahane really disappointed. He has given a really disappointment to the Indian crowd because the short selection was absolutely ridiculous. Start from the Rohit Sharma. How you could play an off spinner when he's bowling round the stumps, and you do understand that there is a bit bounce as well. The technique, guys, actually you have missed. This is what I said, that you should have gone for the batting first after winning the toss. But you know that the Nathan Lyon coming up with a straight-arm bowling action, an off-spinner bowling over the head, over the shoulders, and just giving some flight. And after that, when Rohit Sharma trying to hit that ball, cross the line, that was a sweep shot. That was a pathetic shot selection from Rohit Sharma. And talk about the star batter Virat Kohli. What you are looking for, Virat. That was an outside the off-stump delivery. You're just trying to chase that, and tremendous catch once again from the Australian fielders. That was Steven Smith in the slips. So I think that that was the overall, that was a poor show from the India. And Australia, they were strong and right before the match, and after the match, now they're the winners.
They are the winners, the deserving champions. Ali Gaur, two very particular arguments. One that, Nasir Hussain has made headlines all around the world saying that batters from India should, probably observe Babar Azam and see how to play, against a pace attack in some sort of conditions. A bit about that. But most probably, we will be discussing that. I'd like your insight on that right now as well. But also, if you can add something that Sanjay Manjrekar said on a certain cricketing platform, where he mentioned the fact that Bumrah was injured. There's too much workload with the IPL as well. Maybe it's time now that, particularly for Test cricket, India should follow the model of having players from Ranji Trophy who are particularly focused on only Test cricket, including fast bowlers, including batters, so there is a less chance of injury. There is a less chance that they need to adjust to the format. They're already specifically playing one format. He also mentioned in the bowling department a name of Unadkat, who he said was superb and could have been there for the match as well. So about that argument as well, these both things, if you could highlight on.
Well, what Sanjay Manjrekar have been saying, I think it's pretty obvious, right, with the amount of cricket that's being played and three different formats. I guess you have to identify some players that are test match specialists or T20 specialists or one-day specialists. That's already happening. But again, this is just a wake-up call for the Indians to have a look at that. This is what the BCCI need to now strongly look into, because they do have some very capable seam bowlers who are performing well in the Ranji Trophy. Batters as well, like Sarfaraz Khan, he's banging around the door. A lot of these players are in their mid-30s. They're not getting any younger. So it's something for them to think about. Just to go back a little bit, and look, Babar Azam, I'll address that. Babar Azam is in the form of his life right now. He's looking in very good order. So it's only natural for analysts to compare and contrast when you're talking about great players and players who aren't doing the right things at the moment. Because Bumrah wasn't there, right? This is where Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma needed to think. Because Bumrah wasn't there, all the more reason to pick someone like Ashwin, who is a wicket taker and knows how to get top batsmen out. He has Steve Smith's number. How many times did he get Steve Smith out in the last series they played? 3 or 4 times. He even got Labuschagne out a couple of times. And when you have a bowler like Bumrah, the lesser bowlers then start doing well. Bumrah is the type of bowler that will make Shardul Thakur look good. Now, because he wasn't there, Shardul Thakur was exposed. What were India thinking, really? Did they think, Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, and Scott Boland. We've been talking a lot right now about Cummins and Starc. Scott Boland is a quality bowler. K. Asif was talking about Kohli's shot. Yes, it was a bad shot, but Boland set him up.
Yeah, he sort of reminded me a bit like Ryan Harris, what he used to do. Probably wasn't the most didn't have that killer action, but always bowled the right length. So Boland was sort of reminded me of what Ryan Harris was doing for the likes of Australia.
But if I was in the studio, I would give you a hug right now, because I think that no, that's very smart, Ahmed. That's a really, really smart analogy. Because Scott Boland, again, underrated. See, K. Asif didn't even mention him, and I don't blame K. Asif, because I don't even think of Scott Boland like that. But because he's he sort of goes under the radar. But if you look at the way he set up Virat Kohli with subtle changes of not length, seam position, it was It was very, very smart bowling. He's metronomical. He's relentless. And let's have a little bet here. One of you can get on your phones because Boland, I think, is probably right now one of the best second innings bowlers in Test cricket. What he did against England when he got 6-4-1 or something crazy like that, 6 for 8. That was in the second innings. When he bowled out the West Indies, that was in the second innings. And then he did damage here again in the second innings. Australia, I mean, to the point where they're thinking about not playing Josh Hazelwood for the first test match in the Ashes. That's the kind of bench strength they have. That's what India was up against. So that's why I thought they should have fielded their best. The fact that they played Thakur just shows that they weren't test match ready. And it's very unfortunate.